going on, everybody? My name is Mike Hanna, ham radio call sign Whiskey 9, X-Ray Alpha X-Ray, W9XAX, and as requested, a lot of people have asked me about my ham radio go box that I built for emergencies, portable operations, parks on the air, all sorts of cool stuff that you can do with it on the move and not be confined to your house. So I decided to go ahead and put a little video together to show what kind of components are in it, how I built it, and stuff like that. So without any further ado, let's go! Alright, we'll start with the front of the box here. I'll give you a little shot of the entire setup. And I guess we'll start from the top and work our way around. Here at the top is a piece of aluminum flat bar that I purchased from a local hardware store. Once I cut the length down and drilled the holes, got all that measured out, it fit up pretty nicely. I used the old saying of measure once and cut twice, and that's exactly what I did. So I had to buy two of these because I measured the holes wrong and I couldn't get it to fit up the first time. But anyway, once I got it all together, it fit up pretty nice. These on both sides are license plate lights that I got from AutoZone. They are powered by these switches on both sides. Put out a fair amount of light. I replaced the incandescent lights with LED lights inside of it, just for power consumption. You know, you're out mobile on the go. You don't want to be wasting any power if you don't have to. I'll kill the light here in the house off, and you can see that it lights up the keyboard pretty good. So if you're out at night and wanting to do a paper log or you need to see your keyboard, these two lights do pretty good on putting out a fair amount of light, and they're pretty low power consumption. The next two switches I do not have hooked up to anything at the moment. And yes, I know that the LED's probably wasting power, but that's for cool factor, so whatever. Those aren't currently hooked up to anything. I wanted to have a couple extra switches in there, so if I wanted to add anything that I wanted to have on a switch so I could turn off or on whenever I wanted, that's why those are there. Underneath this guy, I've got two USB ports. The top one is 1 amp at 5 volts, and the bottom one is rated for 2.1 amps at 5 volts. So if I'm out doing a parks on the air activation or whatever, I'll usually just plug my phone into the bottom one that puts out 2.1 amps, and I'll just lay my phone on top of the box. That way I can have my Wi-Fi hotspot on and be able to have my computer on the internet looking at the website, the spotter sites, QRZ, look up anything else that I want to look at. It's all up, and that's all contingent upon actually having cell phone service. If not, it's not that big of a deal, but you know, your phone still drains a lot of power whenever you're without signal because it's busy searching for a signal. Here top center, I've got the ICOM IC7300, which I love. It's my first HF radio, but I absolutely love this radio. I haven't found really a bad thing about it yet. I purchased the mobile mount for it, if you can see there. Takes two screws on both sides, and up here is a shelf which bolts here and through this hinge mount. Probably a little easier to see on this side, but this shelf I've got mounted upside down, and through the vent holes I've used small bolts and washers so I could mount the 7300's mount to it. Other than that, just the 7300 with the mobile mount on it. Down here in this corner, I've got the IT100 LDG Electronics Auto Tuner, a power supply. It's 30 amps. I found it on Amazon. I actually spent a little more on it than what my buddy did for the same one with a different logo on it, so I got kind of aggravated about that, but it is what it is. It's kind of handy. It's got a voltmeter, which always stays at 13.8 unless something's wrong, and an amperage meter. but I do like having the power poles in the front. They're good for 15 amps on this power supply. So if you have anything that you're wanting to use out in front of the box, you can just plug in with your Anderson power poles here. Down here, I've got a QYT 8900D Talk Coupe 2 meter, 70 centimeter UHF VHF radio. Got both mics over here. This is just a little L bracket for the 7300 with a screw on it. That's pretty simple, just mounted in the top the same way the radio is. And I've got the mic for the QYT upside down, but it is tight enough to hold it in place. I did originally have it where I could go down, but once I put these lights in, it didn't work. Poor planning on my part, but yeah, it works now. The QYT 8900D, I have recently found out, sucks at receiving. I pulled my hair out, new coax, new antenna, which all my antennas are homebrew, but this radio is terrible at receiving, just absolutely terrible. So if you are wanting to use it for local repeaters or real close communications, that'd be fine. But if you're wanting to get out a little bit further, I would recommend that you stay away from this radio. But other than that, that's pretty much the front of the box. I guess I can show you, got the power supply for the computer and the USB port. To be able to put this guy away, I've got to unplug those, and this guy will fold up. Well, if I unplug this mic here, this guy will fold up and the front of the box will sit on it, and I'll show you that in another part of the video. But once you take the front cover off, your computer will just swing out on this hinge here, which bolts up through a piece of wood here through the shelf holes. And all this material that you see is just wood covered in the fuzzy side of Velcro strips. I don't know why. That's just what I went with. It made it nice. The adhesive on the back made me able to cut the pieces the way I need them, and it works out pretty good. But anyway, we'll move around to the back. One thing I do want to do before we move around to the back is tell you how I mounted the tuner and the power supply. Here it's a little hard to see, but these are zip ties, and I've got a shelf just like the one I got on the top with the 7300 mounted to. There is a second shelf on the bottom, and you can see the vent holes. Well, to mount the power supply and the tuner, what I ended up doing, the legs on the tuner, if you can see, I put little round pieces of the Velcro on each of the four legs and the other side on the shelf, so it's stuck down with that Velcro. Now, I know that Velcro is not going to hold it, so the tuner, which has got Velcro under it too, I used zip ties, 4 of them, through the shelf on the bottom. They come up and you just zip them together. It's kind of hard to explain. You can figure it out. But I used these to hold the tuner and the radio down, and the Velcro keeps it sliding from side to side or back or forward. So with the Velcro and the zip ties, these are pretty good in place. They're not going anywhere. You can put the box upside down if you needed to, and you don't have to worry about this moving anywhere. But anyway, on to the back. Okay, I've got the box turned around here, and this is a view of the back of my Go box. Up top, the aluminum bar, you can see the switches and everything wired up. I've got everything fused. And all the wires come down through the side of the box. I'll show you the bottom here in a minute. I've got my power supply for the USB ports and the computer right here. It is mounted through the vent holes with some washers and some little bolts, but I got 2 USB ports. One of them runs the computer and the other runs the LED strip lights that I have running around the perimeter on the outside. Makes it a little easier to see if you're out. Got a little remote here. I can turn the lights off, turn them on. We can have a dance party, whatever we want to do, we can do with the lights. You can change the colors of it. I kind of prefer the blue, but I'll leave it on white for the video purposes. That's about it on the top of this shelf. On the underside of it, we have the 7300 mounted through the vent holes. If you can see the screws right there. There's a couple bolts on each side that hold it up. It's really well mounted. It's not going anywhere. Here on the underside, I've got a USB hub that is plugged into the PC back there, but it makes it pretty nice. I've got the 7300 plugged into it, my mouse and keyboard, and this is just held by Velcro to the bottom part of the shelf, bottom part of the top shelf. It's not the securest thing in the world, but I mean, it's not going anywhere. It's the 2-meter radio up front, the tuner, and the power supply. Here I have used a Power Wheels battery. It's an 11 amp hour battery, which isn't the longest in the world, but I've got it plugged into a PWS 40 power supply gate. It's an automatic switcher. You see the power supply, the output, and the battery. The battery obviously is plugged into the battery. The output I've got running over to, if you can see it, this is my negative side. My positive side is covered because I didn't want something to fall down on it and short it out, but the positive same as this. Disperses the power to the radios, the cigarette lighter output, but the power supply is also plugged into it. So whenever the power supply loses power, this switch, this PWS 40, automatically switches over to battery power, and then the battery is supplying everything with power that needs it. I've done a crappy job here, but the battery has got 2 outputs on it. I've got a 34 amp hour wheelchair battery that if I'm going to do a long activation or if I'm going to be out for a while, the Anderson power poles on it, I can just plug that battery into this, and it essentially parallels these 2 batteries to make a battery bank for it. So it really extends the battery life I can get out of this thing. The 2-meter radio, I've ran some RG8X coax up to here and used some bulkhead barrel SO239s. I did the same with the HF radio back there. It goes to the tuner, but you just plug those in. I'm not sure if the coax for each radio, the 2-meter and the HF radio, run through this aluminum, being they are connected to each other. I don't know if that will cause an issue or not. So if you do know that, let me know. Maybe I need to change this out to a non-conductive material or drill these holes bigger and put some plastic in between them. If you know, let me know. I'm pretty new, so I don't know a whole lot. The only other thing back here is this little lug that I put on. It's attached to the ground of the tuner, so if I'm at my house, I've got a grounding rod outside. I just hook a wire up to that and ground the whole thing. But yeah, that's about it, I do believe. Well guys, that's about the gist of my Go Box. It works pretty good for my needs. Right now I'm just doing a lot of parks on the air. I am a member of the emergency management here locally, but I haven't had to use this or anything for that yet. So as far as the parks on the air thing goes, it works great for my needs. I've got my logging software. I can use WinLink. I send my logs in directly from the park because I can and it's fun. But yeah, that's about it. So I hope this project continues to evolve, and I'll add to it as I learn and get more money to spend on the stupid thing. But yeah, if you have any comments, suggestions, or anything else, let me know, and let me know if it's inspired you or you got any ideas from it. So until next time, 7-3.